HAFA-Day, the Committee on Environment, Revenue and Taxation, Labor, Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning is reconvening this informational hearing. It was originally called to order October 4th, but then was recessed till today. At the time, it is 11:31 a.m., Wednesday, October 6, 2021. Notice of this informational hearing was provided to senators, stakeholders, and local media on September 27, 2021, and September 30, 2021, meeting the requirements of open government law. I would like to acknowledge my colleagues that are here today, Senator Tony Atta, Senator Jim Moylan, Senator Amanda Shelton, and Senator Joanne Brown. So the purpose of this informational hearing is to discuss the following items: to get updates from the Guam Department of Labor on the ending of the Federal Unemployment Pandemic Assistance Program, to receive information about workforce opportunities and workforce development. To go over the rules of conduct, the host of this hearing will mute all participants until called upon by the chair. Virtual background should not be utilized during these hearings, and participants' face must be visible at all times. When called to speak, please ensure that you're unmuted and that you're speaking into the microphone. Members of the committee wishing to speak may indicate their desire to do so through an in-app chat feature. Questions and testimony should be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Okay, so now to begin our agenda. So again, the purpose of this Guam Department of Labor informational hearing is to highlight resources available to our people as they seek employment and our training opportunities, and to promote economic diversification through diverse training programs. According to the Guam Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics, as of June 2021, 11.4%, or about 8,000 of our residents, are unemployed. Additionally, about 30,000 received pandemic unemployment assistance. With the ending of the federal unemployment assistance, it is urgent now more than ever to bring our people back to work. Additionally, with the disruption of the recovery of tourism, it is essential to pursue diversification of our workforce. In fact, diversification is key to getting 8,000 plus residents back to work. The agenda for today will help to develop these points, as well as provide summary information of the Federal Unemployment Assistance Program through Guam Department of Labor. I would like to recognize and thank Director Dave De La Sola from the Guam Department of Labor, who will present updates of the ending of the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, as well as job opportunities and workforce development, as well as GCC President Dr. Mary Okada, who will be joining us shortly, who will highlight GCC's role in workforce development in collaboration with Guam Department of Labor. Thank you both for your participation and flexibility with scheduling. So now I'd like to open the floor to Director Dave De La Sola, who has a presentation regarding some points that I proffered to him prior to this hearing. So thank you, Director. Before we start, I'd like to recognize Senator Tello Taitigui, who is joining us. Okay, so you have the floor, Director.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Senators, for allowing us to speak on the ending of PUA, and then talk about some of the opportunities and developments that we're doing down at the AJC. And of course, I'd like to thank Dr. Mary Okada, who is a very strong partner with ours, and we have a very good working relationship with. So I put together last minute a PowerPoint, because I know everybody likes these things. You know me before, I usually just speak off the cuff, but I'll try something different, new and improved. So to get into, I'll try to fly through. I put together some good stats and information right off the press of the PUA. So first, I'd like to start off with the important dates that have been as far as what we can get with USDOL. As we all know already, September 4th was the last eligible work week for PUA. And today is the last date that a new claimant can file a new claim. And so October 6th, the last date that a new claim can be filed. We also got confirmation, and I want to make sure that the island knows, October 27th is when is the last day to accept the weekly filing of claims online. we will turn off the online ability to make changes to a claim. So it's important for all claimants out there to enter all the weeks that you feel that you have owed to you. Even if there is an issue or a problem, file those weeks all the way up until the last that you feel you are eligible for, and get them in by the 27th. I want to assure the public that those who have issues, those who have problems, those who have appeals or who need adjudication, that we will get to every single one of you, and we will correct, fix, and get you paid. So although the 27th is the last of the weekly claims online, we will continue to pay PUA up until probably March 31st or beyond. As you see there, we put in March 31st as the last day to clear and satisfy overpayments. We need to put a date of when we're going to try to get everybody adjudicated, all issues fixed in the claims, and get them all paid. So we have plenty of time to make sure that everybody gets paid that's supposed to get paid. And according to USDOL, June 30th, 2022 is the administrative closeout for PUA. And that's a lot of the reports, the OIG, the audits, all the reports that's required to finish out the 800 and some million dollars that we put out. So as you see on the in front of you, that is the date of that is critical. Next, I just want to inform you that we closed on our bid and that we will be moving the AJC all under one roof at the GCIC building. So all of the AJC will be moving over to the GCIC building. Oh, can you give the next slide on the presentation? Yes, thank you. In the next 30 to 45 days. So it's going to be a little bit chaos as we close down the bell tower and move the AJC over to the 3rd floor of the GCIC building. The PUA Center, which is located on the 2nd floor, will remain there until after the AJC kind of gets settled and we get everything moved in, and then the AJC will, the PUA Center will eventually move over to our new location on the 4th floor of the GCIC. But just to make sure that there is seamless transition, PUA Center will move there. And since we're moving the operations of the AJC, we're also going through and meeting with our staff and going through reviewing and evaluating how we are delivering our services and trying to implement efficiencies with the new layout. And like I said, it gives us a good opportunity to see how we can do services better. So I'm flying through this. I know we got a lot of information. I want to get through this so that you have plenty of time to ask for questions. So we will be closing down the bell tower at the AJC and moving over to, in the next 30 to 45 days, the operations for the American Job Center on the 3rd floor of the GCIC building. Next slide. So what you see is our latest demographics for PUA. And this is just to kind of give you an idea of the makeup, the ethnicities of all of the PUA. The numbers are, when you're dealing with some of these fields, some people answer, some people don't. So that's why the numbers don't always jive. But this is a pretty solid makeup of the demographics for PUA. As you can see, the ethnicity, Filipino makes up the most. Next is Chamorro, and then the FSM. That's really not surprising. And the gender, we have 16,000 females compared to 14,000 males. And then the makeup of the villages, which is not surprising. Dedido being the most populated is first, followed by Jigo, and then the rest of the communities. And then you have the education levels, from doctorates to not even very little education, and everything in between, and by age, and then of course those who are reduced hours, furloughed, or just been laid off. So, you know, that's good for those statistical people that like to play with numbers to see the makeup of how through the whole year and a half that we operated, how the demographics were spread out. Next slide. Here, a little bit different. What you see is for the basically for the year, how we dispersed the $805 million by claimants. So this isn't by dollar amounts, it's by the number of claimants, and how you can see it progressed and it's been slowly declining. It's pretty self-explanatory. Next slide. And this is by dollar amount. So you can see from the beginning of January, February, March of this year, which is 2021, you can see how the dollar amounts. Now you can see in the middle there that January through April, that was during the change from CARES Act to the continuing assistance to the ARPA. And then remember, we had that that time period where they said that reduced hours was no longer qualified. And then all of a sudden we got it qualified. So that's why you see those jaggedness of during that whole transitional period that we survived with USDOL, first with the reduced hours not being qualified. But after that, you can see a steady payout. And I'd like to say that between 15 to 20 million has been a constant level of majority of the payments. You know, at the very beginning, it was like up at 25, but then it kind of leveled off into the 15 to 20 until we reached the end of summer of this year. And you can see the steady declining as we recovered. So that kind of gives you a quick idea. Now, what I also want to kind of show, you're going to see a steep decline, is that, and that credit to my staff at PUA and their hard work. We've been very aggressive trying to clear as many qualified claimants as possible. That's why you see after mid-September, you see a sharp declining on the number of qualified people, is because we fixed so many people with problems that now we are, you know, pretty much everybody is up to date who has had minor issues and have been paid. Now we're dealing with those who have a little bit more work to fix their problems, the work search issues, and the those who now we're getting fixed and clean, and that shows the workload of the number of people that we went through, you know, from 10,000 to 8,000. Now all of a sudden they've been caught up to the date of majority of our people, and that just shows that we have been answering the phones. We have been fixing those people who had problems. We have been addressing those who have come in to our PUA sites and who've been needing help. Regardless of those few that you read about in the newspapers, which we look at, and none of them have issues. The ones that you see in the press, they've all been dealt with and have been corrected. Not one of them have really true issues. And I just want to say, to the credit of my staff and who've been working 6 days a week nonstop since this PUA program has been going on, that we've been tirelessly correcting, fixing, and paying people. And it shows by the numbers. And next slide, just so that you can get kind of perspective on the money that we've given out and in respect to what they normally would be getting. So if you, and I'm trying to put it in perspective, if you were at the beginning when we first shut down from March of 2020 to the end of the program, if you were a PUA participant during that whole time, you would have received $48,000 in PUA for that whole program. Now, to give you a perspective, if you were a fully employed for that 1.5 year period at $8.75 an hour, you would have collected $26,000, almost $27,000. And if you were fully employed, like pandemic never happened, and you were making $12 an hour, you would have gotten close to $37,000. So what does that $48,000 equate to in full-time hours? $16.23 an hour. And below that, if you look at our current employment report, the average retail hours are 1182. The average service hours is 1037. And overall, everybody in the private sector, their average hours comes out to $16 an hour. So the average PUA participant was making more than the typical person would make if they were working full time. I just want to make sure that you guys understand that how much assistance the average person was getting and what does it equate to what they normally would have gotten if they worked full-time hours. So I'm not making any statement other than pointing out what that fact is. Now, the next slide. This is, so of all the claimants, well, how many claimants have we served? Our latest number, and this is to the credit to our software vendor. They were complaining about getting this number at such a short time period, but I told them how important it was to get it to our legislature and to the public. So this number just came in this morning, and that's why I had to adjust it from when I gave it to the office last night. We served 30,856 total paid claimants during the 1.5 years that we ran this program. And I asked for it to give me a sense of how many people out of that whole 1.5 years, which is made up of 70 some weeks, how many people were in 1 to 20 were 9,000. So that shows that a lot of people were in and out or in and out, and collected a total of 20 weeks. And as you can see, the highest number was 61 plus hours. That's 11,000. So that tells me that a majority of the claimants have been unemployed since the beginning of the program. And that kind of just wanted to kind of put things in perspective. The number of weeks of claimants were spread out. I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share that with you. So next slide. Amount of appeals. So as of September, beginning of September, when I ran this report, we had 1,250 appeals filed. Out of that, 66% have been heard. And we only have 34% left. Now, this number could have raised since September, but as it stands. And to the credit, only 95% have been reaffirmed with the current decision that was given. That shows that before anybody goes to appeal, I make sure our staff not only calls upon the person who wants to appeal, but has a clear understanding of why they were the decision was made against them, or whatever this decision was. And we have it go through several supervisors to ensure that the case was heard correctly. And a lot of times it was changed and the appeal was resolved. So before they went to go to appeals, I wanted to make sure that every case and every claimant understood why they were given that action. And 95% were reaffirmed, and only 5 were changed from us. So also, I'd like to give you total overpayments are close to $7 million in total overpayments out of $805 million. That, I just wanted to let you know, nationwide average is 25%. We are at only less than 2% of, no, I don't know what that's, a little bit more, but less than 10%. I think that's, I'm sorry, I should have had that number for you. But our numbers nationally are so much lower than it is nationwide. And
calculating less than 1%.
Damn, I'm good. That just shows you how good our program is with overpayments. Yes, it seems like a lot, but compared to the $805 million, and you only had 7 million that are overpaid, our region is blown away on that number. And then out of that, we've recovered so far 55%, believe it or not. And I do want to show you that almost $1.6 million have been waived. And I personally sign every single waiver and review every single waiver and review every single denial out of the staff. So the waiving has to follow a certain procedure and has to be qualified. I'll tell you right now, I will not waive somebody who got PPP and PUA. I've told you this before, but that isn't waivable to me, getting double paid. And there are certain criteria. But I'd like to think that a 55% recovered or waived out of the 6.9 million is a pretty solid number. And so I just kind of wanted to share that with you. So that, other than that, and ending with PUA, I do want to say, other than that, is our fraud. We've had high success of off-island fraud. You know, we've been hit with over 70,000 fraud claims from off-island. Our fraud measures, although they were at the very beginning, you know, when we were given a laundry list of fraud measures, we never thought this was, you know, we had no experience in this. And the list was like number of telephone numbers on a single claim. Okay, let's give that 5. These are the kind of fraud in this fraud. How many addresses can a claimant have, you know, a total, you know, amount of claims? Okay, we say, okay, we gave it 5. These were the kind of initial fraud claims, numbers that we were given. And, you know, because you don't want this, you know, 100 claims going to the same address. That kind of gives a suspicion of fraud. So these are the numbers. This is what we dealt with, and the headaches that we had when we first were, because we didn't know that there were so many claimants living under the same household, using the same address. using the same bank accounts, using it just goes to show that we weren't in the national standards. And that was how we had to adjust. And I will say, now that it's kind of over it, those metrics didn't work for us. The metrics that were unique to Guam that you couldn't do to the states that did work was our whitelist. Only banks on Guam. Any outside banks were automatically flagged. And that was one of the biggest countermeasures that caught the fraud. The other countermeasure, which was probably said in the media, which I asked them to downplay, were off-island IP addresses. So if you lived in the States and you were filing for PUA on Guam, you were automatically flagged. You had to have a local IP address. That was another. Did that create some problems with those people that moved off island? Yes, and we handled them individually. It was a lot easier to handle 100 or so people who left island and were filing for PUA on Guam than it was to deal with 70,000 coming in and doing bot attacks and hitting us in the middle of the night with 20,000 claims all in 2 hours. Those are the kind of things that we had to deal with. So those were just some of the measures that we put in place that did work and handle our off-island claims. And also, because once some of the fraud measures, the fraudsters caught on to our IP addresses and they're off-island, then they started shifting towards local checks being mailed to them. And that was our last line of defense, is the thousands of checks that were cut. We went through each one of them and pulled out those who had off-island addresses. And we went through each one of them. I should say I thank DOA for doing that. And that's why when you say, how long does it take for these checks to go out? Well, it's because we got to go through each thousands. There's hundreds of them that have off-island addresses that we have to pull and go through all those thousands of checks before we mail those out to our locals and double check. So it's exhausted every time we batch the amount of work that goes behind closed doors before the money's released. And those are the kind of things that I couldn't say before, because once you say it, those fraudsters will turn around and figure out a workaround. And it's constantly with these fraud. Every time we put in a measure, they'd find a workaround. We had to put in another measure, they'd find a workaround. And you know, I do want to say the identity theft, you'd be surprised the amount of identity thefts. The people that were saying, hey, I can't file a claim. It's because you already have a claim in. I never filed it. And it went all the way up. There was a lot of identity theft. And we weren't immune to that. Those hacks that, you know, those credit cards, those Yahoo, all those identity thefts, it got out and it affected our people locally. So that's just a little bit of flavor. I don't want to go into some of the fraud because some of them are ongoing cases. But just to kind of give you the amount of work that went behind closed doors on each batch was exhaustive to make sure before everything was released, it was clean. And that is the credit to not only to my staff here at PUA staff, but also the DOA and the batching that they did. I want to thank Ed Burns and the hardworking staff at DOA for the amount of work that they did. Every 2 weeks, you'd be surprised, getting tens of millions out every 2 weeks was a lot of work. And we did it. And I want to thank them for that. So that pretty much closes out PUA. The last words I will say is, I want to assure the public, if you have a claim and you haven't gotten paid, we will fix you, we will pay you. It may not happen this week or next week, I won't close PUA until I close everybody out. And I kind of want to make that assurance to everybody that we will pay you. And no matter how long it takes, I will make sure everybody gets paid. That kind of summarizes PUA. And I do want to say they have reassured me that they will pay for us to pay for the administrative leave to make sure everybody gets paid, and that we finished all appeals, and that we finished all the waiver requests, no matter how long it takes, within reason. So that part, I was reassured recently with USDOL that they will continue. And they said, Dave, what you're asking for isn't much, because in some states it's going to take years for them to finish their overpayments and their appeals. So that made me feel better. So that pretty much closes out PUA, and I'm ready to go into, that was a half hour, so that's pretty good. To go into job development and workforce development. If you like, I'll just continue to go on.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go back to the beginning and just for the public to see the important dates again. So yeah, thank you for such a for responding to all the questions that I sent you. So yeah, great.
Sure, and then more, and then some, as I usually do.
Right. Yeah, and all the work. Imagine 30. It's like you have you're employing 30,000 people basically. That's what it kind of amounts to. You have a workforce of 30,000 people, and you're handling all of that workforce. So yeah,
and I appreciate the public's patience, because like I said, every time there's a batch, there's a lot of work that you just don't know that goes behind to get that batch reconciled, make sure the fraud is out, and then request for the monies, and then cut the checks, and then make sure all the checks are clean, and that we're not sending some to Zimbabwe or to Nigeria or to the States, and that they're staying locally. And then those who are off island, we have to find them and make sure that those go out. There's a lot of work, and you're dealing with thousands of checks, not just a couple. So it's a lot of work that needs, and I understand that people say, why is it taking so long to get the money? It's just to make sure that the money, and I do want to say one thing, weekly we get from OIG and from AGs from all over the states are sending us, Dave, we have this claimant that filed PUA that has been flagged by us. Can you tell us how much money that they've collected from, we've noticed that they filed on Guam. Can you let us know how much money they got from Guam, from filing, from the Office of the Inspector General to AG's office, all over the states. And I can tell you, every single one that has come to us has not gotten paid. We DQ'd them before they got paid on every single request that came from the states, from the feds. And that shows credit also to our staff of how much work they went behind to clean, to make sure our dollars stayed here on Guam and went to our people, and not to the billions of dollars like in the States that went to fraud. I like to think that we ran a pretty clean, fraud-free operation.
So to Masi for all your work and your staff. Okay, so we can move on to the next important vital function that you guys provide, workforce development. So
yeah.
You like, or if there's other things you would like to add to this.
Just taking another breath. Okay, you can change your slide to, now we'll switch over. So now, when you say what's new, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing at the AJC, American Job Center. We're trying to align employers and the unemployed with jobs. We don't create jobs, so to speak. We are just intermediaries, and we help those who come in to get better trained, or to get better job ready, or we look at what they're missing individually and how we can get them a better chance to get hired. And some people that walk in, they just want a job. They don't want training. They don't want anything but a job. And that's also what we do. And so, right now with this whole, we're looking at trying to ramp up and become more efficient. So in the workforce development, you're going to have Mary come on, who Mary and I are joined at the hip when it comes to the AJC and what we do. We work very closely. We share our dollars, and whatever I can't handle, I go to her and ask her if she can handle, and she always steps up. So I do want to say we have a great working relationship with her, and she's always been my go-to person for help in training and putting together boot camps. So with that, I want to talk about a little bit about our out-of-school youth program that we, this is the 16 to 24. I want to make a call out to, we're going to do a press release and try to get more of our youth to come to us. And it doesn't always have to be about looking for work. It can be help. We can help them get their GED. We can also help them get credentials or certificates so that they can become more employable. Or we can put them in a work experience program. We have 25 new work experience companies with us, and it covers the whole gamut from dental to health to technical to construction to restaurant to cooks to laborers, where we will put you in a work experience where we pay 480 hours for you to go in and gain experience at that workplace, and then they get a chance to, for the company, to train you up and hopefully keep you employed. So there are a number of programs, and we also have pre-apprenticeship training. We have a eligible training list of different employers that can provide training, and we are constantly exploring people who can become training providers. So if you're a company and you think that you can help train some of our workforce, please come and see us. We'd love to expand our training provider list. But these are some of the programs and some of the things that we do. I do want to say one of the new things that we're going to explore, and that I will let you know because I haven't let it out to the public yet, is I've been seeing a lot of our employers doing job fairs, mini job fairs, whether how small or how large. I've been meeting with our AJC and our administrator. We want to do more outreach and be more engaged. So what I'm saying is that if you're going to do a mini job fair, I'd like to volunteer some of our case managers to go out and help you, assist you in doing your job fairs, assist the applicants who are coming in, fill out those applications and put in better applications, and assist you with whatever way we can. So that if you get like 100 applications for 10 jobs, we're asking if we can, let you select the ones that you are, and those who aren't select, take back to the AJC and help get them for other employers. So we want to do more outreach and engagements on a more community level when it comes to employment. And that's something that we're trying to put together and are designing. So that if you as a small business want to get together and do a job fair, we'll help you put that together. We'll help you receive applications, whether we go to your workplace and help you, or whether you want to do AJC as a partner. But we want to get more engaged. I want to see who's coming out there, who's applying, so that we can adjust our services. I don't want to just remain in the AJC and, like you say, in our ivory tower and think that everybody's going to come to us, because they're not. So we're going to go out to them, and we're going to expand our services and our involvement in the community levels and get more involved that way. I think that is the direction that I want to steer towards. It may be more old school, but I'm old school and that's what it is. And I understand. I'm trying to introduce people to our Hire Guam website, but it's not for everybody. And I'm not going to say either you use it or we're not going to involve. No, it's there. We'll help you use it. We'll help you get engaged. But if you're not, then let us help you go old school and fill out your applications and get those things done. So that's the direction that we're going to move towards. Next slide. That's some of our eligible training providers. That's a list of them. And those have been around for quite a while. And I'd like to grow that. But it's a tough business being a training provider. Remember, it is client driven. So when a client comes in, they decide who they want to go to, what they want to do and stuff. We can suggest, we can do this, but it is client driven. And I'd like to get more, I like to try to get more entrepreneurial training providers, because I know that there's a demand, and I've been reaching out. I've been talking to one service provider, but how can we design it? I think there's a lot of our young kids that are being food trucks that are looking at starting internet, or they're trying to do entrepreneurial things. And I think that is something that I'd love to provide training for. And that's just one suggestion that comes to mind. But that's the list that we have, and just for your information. So the next slide. Now, I just got off the phone 10 minutes before this meeting with our regional acting administrator in Dallas. And he was asking me to be a guest speaker to the region on our NWG program. And also, he's heard about, I guess it's not stranger even to the region, about how I'm always on the radio and on the media. I'm always everywhere. They said you've reached out over 2,000 times to the media. We want to know how you're doing that. What's your success? So on Friday, I'm going to be speaking to the region on this program. And I want to say the NWG, the National Disclaimer Work, we were awarded $3.2 million. We enrolled 256 unemployed by pandemic people and put them all out to help us in the recovery, from the public health to DRT to all the health clinics to GRMC to GMH to health vaccine, to the mayor's offices, to everywhere to help recover. 256 people we employed through this program. And out of that, we had 52 successful outcomes of hires. They are blown away nationally about that. And how successfully we spent this money. So successful that I told that guy to hurry up and give us the additional $2 million that you owe us. And he's going to try to get us that money sooner than later. We've been waiting months. And not only that, I always ask him, any monies that you can find, please give it to us. So this has been our poster success, this NWG program. And, I'd like to thank the governor to promoting it and helping us, once they saw how we can help staff up the recovery, it's been beneficial from the quarantine sites initially, everywhere. We were everywhere with these 256 people. And the only criteria was that you had to have been unemployed because of COVID. And it was successful. And we hope with this 2 million that not only we would still assist with the recovery, but that's the money we're also going to use to help train people who are unemployed because of COVID. They become trained and hopefully get into the different programs that we have. So that has been a success. And this can also move into our nationally recognized apprenticeship. We've talked nationally. For our small island, we've had quite a success with apprenticeship. And a lot of that has to do with, not only with us, but also working with Mary Okada and with her programs. And she can go on to kind of roll into what I spoke about here in our close partnership that we have with her, and we'll continue to have as we try to look at ways to successfully get out of this pandemic. Okay, I think I talked a lot here.
No, thank you so much. A great presentation. We'll have the round of questions later on. We'd just like to invite Dr. Mary Cotta. So yeah, thank you so much, Director David Dosola, and to you and your staff for putting together this presentation. But we'd like to now invite Dr. Mary Cotta to provide additional information regarding her work in workforce development. And I know first of all, congratulations on receiving a federal recognition as well, for the boot camps. And so we're looking forward to your presentation. So welcome. Thank you, Dr. Okada.
Thank you, Senator Perez, and to all the senators that are here. It's always a pleasure and it's always a joy for me to present to the legislature to give you an update of what's happening out here in Manila. There's a lot going on, and it's always good for us to share, not just with the senators, but with the community as to what opportunities might be available to everyone. So I thank you all for your support, Senator Atta, of course, Senator Jim Moylan, our Oversight Chair, Senator Amanda Shelton, my neighbor, Senator Joanne Brown. Thank you for being here this afternoon, and of course, Senator Tello Taitigui as well. And to my partner, David De La Sola, and to the Guam Department of Labor team, thank you so much for our partnership and for continuing to help advance workforce development for our island. So I have a brief presentation here, and I will just say next slide when I'm ready for the next slide. But we'll start off with this. Basically, the community college is nearing its 45th anniversary. So come next year, we would have been on island for 45 years. And so right now the college offers one bachelor degree program, which is in career and technical education. We also offer associate degrees, certificates, and work-ready training programs. And then we have the career and technical education programs in each of the 6 high schools, public high schools on Guam. And it really is dependent upon the space that is available. And we are looking to further expand our footprint in the high schools as the need becomes available and the interest is there for our students. So whenever we talk about workforce development, I will say GCC is the place to be because we've been working in partnership with Guam Department of Labor and many of our island's employers to meet today's workforce development needs. But COVID has done a lot to all of our island residents who have lost their jobs. And for some of them, their future really is uncertain. So we're trying to help and do our best to help get them back on their feet and into jobs that are available in our community. And if not, then give them training so that they can apply for jobs that they may be interested in the future. And so we're really been working on programs for the unemployed and the underemployed who want to skill up or to reskill. So we can go to the next slide. So there's several things that we've been doing over the past several years, and it really is preparing a ready workforce. So since 2018, and you're seeing some of the photos that are transitioning on this slide in the different areas. Since 2018, we have been developing work-ready boot camps that take participants from high school education to skilled jobs. And ideally, the hope is to get them into apprenticeship, because apprenticeship is the difference between a job and a career. So we really want to provide all of our participants opportunities to enter into registered apprenticeship that provides a pathway to earn their journey worker certificate, and in many cases in about 4 years. Next slide. The Guam Community College, our mission, the Guam Community College is a leader in career and technical workforce development, providing the highest quality student-centered education and job training for Micronesia. So our mission really is to lead the way in workforce development for our region. We are constantly evolving our approach so that we can offer relevant, timely, and necessary workforce development that leads to employment in high demand growth areas and industries. And we've responded to COVID-19 pandemic with several programs to help those who've lost their job by training them with the high skilled demand areas. We need to go back a couple slides because you're advancing quite quickly. So if we can go back to the pathways to career slide, which is about 3, there we go. Oh, one more. Okay, you went backwards. Okay. Almost there. If you can advance it just a couple of slides after the mission statement. One more. There we go. Thank you. So we have 4 different areas on our pathways to career. The first one identified is the boot camp that we have, that we've been providing participants with opportunities into apprenticeships and in growth industries. We also have our continuing education program, which prepares students for apprentices. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, we do have the certificate programs, associate's degrees, and our bachelor degree program as well. If you can go to the next slide. So one of the things that is very important for individuals that are entering the workforce is that, and here's a quote from IBM's David Barnes that really talks about how it is also necessary not just to give students skills or technical skills, but really to focus in on soft skills as well. So we've met with employers, and many of them have said you can provide individuals with that are highly trained, but if they don't show up to work, they don't have the right attitude, then they're not going to be successful in our company. So we've taken this to heart and really have included the soft skills in terms of providing a holistic approach to employment for our students. And so the next slide, please. So one of the other things for participants is that we need to make sure that they're, of course, timely, that they're able to provide accountability on the workforce as well. So in GCC's transformational blueprint, the college identified advancing workforce development and training as part of its institutional strategic master plan. And this master plan was developed and takes the college actually through the year 2026. And so while our boot camps have evolved over the years, this really is a long range planning activity for the Guam Community College. And although this is something that we've been developing over the years, this became the primary goal of our institutional master plan. For the 2 objectives, to respond to the local and regional needs and to cultivate meaningful partnerships. And these partnerships for GCC are very important because this helps us to advance our work and to provide support for our students. Next slide, please. So we've had several boot camps here on campus, and I will share that, oh goodness. Why are we at this slide? Okay, anyway, so as we go back through the institutional strategic master plan, when we respond to the local and the regional occupational needs, really we are designing specifically what industry needs so that they can employ individuals for our boot camp. So can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so with our partnerships, as I mentioned earlier, that are very important, private sector helps to work with us to develop these boot camps. They help us in designing the curriculum. They help us in interviewing the applicants. And then because we have a long list of individuals that are interested, they also help us to select the participants for the boot camps. And the reason why this is very important is because individuals who complete the boot camp with our partnerships, the employer actually hires these individuals upon completion. So we wanted to engage them in the very beginning of the program so that they're with us every step of the way, because eventually these participant completers will be their employees. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Dr. Okada, we're having technical difficulties with the animations on your presentation. One moment, please.
Sorry. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Dr. Okada, you're ready.
Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, those that complete the program are actually hired into the companies. And again, the hope is to put them into the apprenticeship program. And so basically, one example of a model that we've had is students will complete the boot camp, will have their completion ceremony on a Friday, and then they're into the workforce as early as Monday the following week. And so we try to get the students or the completers employed as soon as possible upon the completion of the boot camps. Next slide, please. Okay, so the boot camp is consisted of two components. One is they participate not only in the classroom setting, in the GCC various trade shops that we have here on campus, we also provide certified instructors to ensure that the industry standards are met depending on what that boot camp is. And then we do have the skills acquisition that is also measurable and demonstratable. So these are components that are necessary, both the hands-on and the classroom components for students to be successful in their area. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the four components that we offer for every boot camp that we have. One is work ethic training. And so we partnered with Center for Work Ethic, and we have certified trainers here on campus that provide work ethic. We also provide every boot camp with the OSHA 10 certification and training. The National Career Readiness Certificate is the NCRC, which is what we are currently offering in the high schools. And this allows for individuals to be assessed based on where they are in terms of math, computation, finding evidence, and then also this is a certification that is offered, GCC offers to the public high school students. It's a national certification, and it is also portable. And then the final one is the CPR and the basic first aid. And so this again is available to all participants of the boot camp. And so one of the other things that the college provides in addition to these four really is the wraparound services that that we offer the students to help support them so that they are successful. In many of the boot camps, sometimes we've offered assistance with them to coordinate daycare. We've sought some public health assistance for them, for some of the participants, and we just tried to help nurture them through the program by providing wraparound services. So, because our goal is for them to get into the boot camp, be successful during the boot camp, and try to alleviate any barriers that exist through their participation. Next slide, please. So at the beginning of the boot camp development, one of the things we did was we identified where there were jobs here in the community. So since we've started, we've had 4 ship repair boot camps with Cabris Marine, and Cabris Marine has been hiring all of these individuals. We've completed 2 truck driving boot camps, and so we have completers that went from a B license to Class C licenses, and then we've also completed 55 individuals under the construction boot camp. And so these are all programs that have, again, jobs at the end waiting for them, so that we can help provide workforce development for industries here on Guam that have to fill a need or a gap in their employment. And so the college has helped to provide these to the students. And so this is one of the primary roles that the college has taken during this pandemic, and in its current state is really to get individuals back to work. Next slide, please. So you saw the information that David provided earlier on the unemployment. And so there was a lot of folks that were unemployed or are currently still underemployed. With the shutdown of tourism and the hospitality industry, it was important for us to provide some skills to those individuals that may want to either transition into another area where there are jobs, or to skill up so that when they return to the same industry that they could return at a higher level. We do recognize that there has been a shortage of skilled workers, not just in healthcare to support this pandemic, but also in construction. And so even with the thousands of individuals that were unable to find jobs, we were trying to assist in the healthcare component by providing students that would have completed a boot camp in healthcare so that they can get employed as well. Next slide, please. So during the pandemic, the college hosted 2 Workforce Opportunities Reimagined conferences. And during these 2 conferences, the first conference was to identify what industries were in need of the workforce during the pandemic. The second conference identified what the critical positions were needed. We took the information that was provided during these 2 conferences to help develop our training programs to support the boot camps. Next slide, please. So here's the list of the 19 boot camps that we have launched since June of 2021 and will continue through December of 2021. And then we'll have a whole new program going through for calendar year 22. So we've provided information technology boot camps, caregiver, medical, home health aides twice, medical code and billing, HVAC, CNAs, certified nursing assistants, engineering technicians, ship repair, construction, diesel mechanic is something that is currently in the works. Ship repair 5, I believe, has started. We're working on a safety officer training boot camp, as well as heavy equipment. Truck driving is going to see its 3rd cohort. Welding, cybersecurity will launch sometime in December. We have an EMT boot camp and then another security boot camp. So these are the boot camps that the college has been preparing for since June of 2021, based on that work conference that I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. So since June through October 4th, earlier this week, these are the areas of boot camps that have been completed. And many of these individuals, including the CNAs, have actually been put to work already. We've had a great partnership with many different employers to help get these completers employed. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit of our stats. In terms of the construction boot camp, ship repair, truck driving, etc., the number of participants that we've had sign up at the beginning of the boot camp, the number of completers, and the percentage rate. The lowest one here would be the truck driving. So we had a little bit of a challenge on the truck driving boot camp. It's a lot of, you have to do a lot of testing because you are trying to maneuver through a vehicle that perhaps maybe, it just takes a lot of practice. And so, and then we've also had some drug testing, which is required for many of the truckers here on Guam. And so we've lost some individuals because of either challenges in completing the course or, just completing it. So overall, out of the 277 participants that we have trained in these particular boot camps, 230 completers with a completion rate of about 83%. Next slide, please. So some of the questions that were asked earlier, what recruitment efforts are being done for the program? So I thank you, Senator Perez, for sending those to us so that we can address those particular questions. So our team at Continuing Education Workforce Development works hand in hand with Guam Department of Labor, and they have been providing lists of candidates from the Higher Guam database. And so we take a look at these, and this is part of our recruitment pool. We've also reached out to community partners and trying to open all of the programs through media releases and social media announcements. And so whenever a flyer is up, we put them on our social media platform, and it is shared widely throughout the community. In terms of capacity for the programs, many of the programs have a 20 participant cohort. There are some programs that have limited space. And so some of them are at 12, but for the most part, the cohorts are running about 20 students per cohort. The IT boot camps, for example, have about 12. And that's based on how the classroom is set up and the equipment that is available for them to train. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges that we have experienced with the program. So we've been very fortunate to partner with Department of Labor and our private partners to engage in this process. And so it's really just in, finding more partners that have vacancies in their operations that they need some additional assistance in and helping them find it. It's a big logistical task for us to do this because in some cases, we have more than one employer. There has been a significantly high demand for a lot of these programs. It's not uncommon for us to have 100 participants vying for 20 slots. And again, because the employer is engaged in this process, the employer is the one helping us screen these employers so that we can, these participants so that we can identify the cohort for each boot camp. The funding, of course, depends on whether the program is a pre-apprenticeship boot camp. We've had great support from the Guam legislature in providing funding for the pre-apprenticeship boot camps. And so right now, we're still good in terms of funding. And we have also been identifying other funding sources to help support. So there, I would say, of the various boot camps that we've offered, we've had programs specifically for graduated high school seniors. We've had programs that have been paid for through GITA applications. We currently have a Department of Interior grant that we received that will help support ship repair and construction boot camps as well. So in addition to the dollars that has been provided to the college directly in the form of appropriations, we are leveraging those funding to leveraging that funding to support and identify other funding mechanisms that are available. And then the employer participation we have is always strong. They're with us from every step of the way. One of the challenges really is to get more employers to the table to help us so that we can help provide them with the employees that they need. Next slide, please. So just to give you some additional information on the future of pre-apprenticeship boot camp, there is, the pandemic really highlighted the importance of individuals to upskill or to retrain in other areas. But the need for upskilling and training has been a discussion for many, many years. And I think because of the current pandemic, just really put a spotlight on it. And so we want to continue this conversation, even if, you know, we get back to some form of normalcy, that this continues to be a program or a partnership that continues for many, many years to come. So we want to help address not just the current workforce and the current industries, but any future industries that may come out of this. And so we're hoping to continue this pre-apprenticeship bootcamp program. Next slide, please. So in addition to this, GCC does have a workforce development center. We are currently under design right now to have that space renovated, and it will support Guam's growing role in regional ship repair. Ship repair has been one of the initiatives under the Guam Chamber of Commerce and the Governor's Economic Diversification Plan. We did apply for funding to renovate that facility. And so we are working through that design right now so that we can move forward with that renovation and have another location for GCC to provide training on Guam. Next slide, please. And so this Workforce Development Center also provides the continuity of training without disrupting the trades programs that we have on campuses. On the campus, we really have a need for additional space. And so this warehouse, once renovated, will help provide not just additional space for the college, but help to transition so that we can start to upgrade some of the facilities here on campus. It also provides us an opportunity for long-term support for the bootcamp model and to perhaps expand this opportunity of bootcamp offerings for not just our island, but also to show it as a demonstration so that we can include training perhaps for other areas in our region as well. Next slide, please. So this is the conceptual design of what that building will look like once it's renovated. The Guam Community College Workforce Development Center. It is in Barrigada. It is close to Happy Mart. It is the former Guam Contractors Association Trades Academy. And this particular space will be used for GCC to continue to conduct its boot camps. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation here. And I look forward to any questions that you may have. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Okada and Director Dave De La Sola. So I do have some questions, but yeah, thank you for that presentation. That was very thorough. So in looking at the Department of Labor's listing, demand occupation listing, it was, I think the most recent one that we have is a 2019 one. And in view of the presentations that we just had today, it seems like there perhaps could be, is there plans to update that listing, or what does this listing do? What's the purpose of the listing? I believe it's going to be up on the chat right now. This question is for Director Dave De La Sola.
We're working on updating the list.
Yeah, we're working on the updating the list as we speak. There's what, 1,200 or so occupations in there now, and we're exploring to see if there's anything that's missing that can be included. And that can be updated at any time. So it's not like something that is only done once a year or something. We can take whatever comes up and add it onto the list. That's the nice thing about being a state apprentice office.
Okay.
So if you have any suggestions or anything, Senator, please forward it up and we'll look into it.
Great. Yeah, I think perhaps the eligible program providers may be able to be the best ones to provide some information on that. So I think, yeah, Dr. Maricata and all the providers that were listed. So yeah, I guess maybe going back to just the basics. So if I'm looking for a job, how many jobs are out
But-
there? I'm sorry.
But don't forget that that apprentice list also works for the GRAP.
Correct. Correct.
So,
Talking about the eligible training providers list.
yeah,
That's up for the board's
Yeah.
review this month.
okay, yeah. So what was your question? I'm sorry. How many
Okay.
jobs that are out there?
Well, maybe if you want to finish that thought before I move on to another one. So
Yes, but like I said, the eligible training providers, I'd love to grow them, but it's what is out there and what business wants to approach us. I mean, we get approached, not a lot, but by a few companies. We had to vet them out to see whether or not they would fit the model of, is it something that can be offered all the time? How do we get a cohort? You know, there's a lot of challenges for a training provider. And so it isn't as easy as it sounds to become one, because you almost have to, you know, like I said, do you wait for 20 people, or can you take one or two? You know, is it offered every day, or is it only once, you know, biannual? Or, you know, so there's a lot of questions that need to be vetted.
okay. Yeah, so maybe we'll just continue with that line, because the GRAP program. So obviously this listing is what you use for the implementation of the GRAP program. And in looking at the latest communications that was sent to the legislature, so I believe it's in the chat group. Maybe if that could be shown on the screen, we can have that shown on the screen. GRAP tax credit summary. So if I can direct the attention to that, the second item, I can have my staff put it on the screen. So the second document, it shows a summary of the tax credits. Okay, so in this particular one, this is what was utilized in 2020. And so it seems like there's definitely a concentration on information technology firms. Of course, you know, there was a couple that were non-information technology, but by and large, I think they're more the, you know, the desk jobs, and not so much the, you know, the construction, the medical facilities, the medical, you know, jobs out there. So in looking at this, yes, I do see a potential to, you know, if we want to diversify our economy towards these jobs where there's a need, you know, first of all, there is a need for them. And so how would, you know, I was thinking, what would the GRAP, how can we maybe reach out to these construction companies, medical facilities to expand this program? Or is there another avenue that we can pursue to perhaps?
I think the construction companies are very tough to do, but there's a lot of businesses that are out there. And if you look at the success of the cellular companies, because of their customer service reps, when you call in, not only do they just handle the person, but they're handling the initial call, how to go online, how to fix them. They fix 80% of the customers that have a problem. Then they refer them over to the technical support for anything that requires more than your casual going in and just pulling up their screens. So they've understood the importance of it. And everywhere I go, I talk about the GRAP program. It's something that I think is the best kept secret that out there all the time. More businesses should be doing it. And some of them are starting to catch on. We just recently had duty free. They caught on and they see the importance. So I'm hoping once they see some of these other companies embrace it, that it'll catch on. It's a little bit of work to get it established, but just think, a majority of the companies, when they hire people, they train them already. before they become valuable employees. All we're trying to do is put it into a organized, structured process, and you can write off 50%. And we come in and we help these businesses design that. And it can take some time and effort, but every time you want to hire somebody new, you can put them through that program. Once these positions are identified, and they can write off through tax credit. I think it's the super great program that I can't understand why more people don't take advantage of it. And then, of course, the work experience program, which is another program that I speak a lot about. And I think it's just getting them up and coming in. We got 25 new employers just recently. And I think it's a lot of it has to do with the concept that they need the help and they're not getting the qualified people. So we're asking, okay, don't worry about the qualified, just get the people that fit the right attitude and you can train them. You got 3 months to train them, free. We pay for it. And we only ask if they work out that you hire them. That's a pretty good program. And I just got to keep saying it and hitting it to the right ears. We got a lot of good programs that are there. Businesses have just, now is the time that businesses are starting to look because they need the help. And we are reaching out and we're doing it. So things are rolling pretty well. Our foot traffic hasn't been great because of the Delta variant. I can tell you that. It could be a lot more. And from what I hear, it is because of Delta. But our call-ins have reached a new all-time high. So we're busy on the phones. And as we start settling in and getting out of this Delta, we will start seeing the foot traffic increase. And that's why I'm looking at getting more into the community, more into, when I say community, into those employers and finding out what is going on out there and not waiting for them to come to me.
Okay. Yeah, I do appreciate I really like the approach that you are taking with working in from the grassroots level as far as going out to the different job fairs and interfacing with the employers. And for those that don't get the job, you can perhaps place them in other areas. So I think that's a good move. I think the other, I guess, in regard to the GRAP program, is GDL considering maybe providing a technical assistance for these companies that may not be so familiar with this program and, become a participant?
We do provide those technical trainings, but I think this whole COVID thing is why you haven't really heard too much with this, with it being more frequent. But yes, we do provide technical training. And I think, like I said, it's more, they have to come in and it's hard to do virtually. But we are, as we move into our new facility at GCIC, I'm also looking at upgrading our video conferencing and virtual. Hopefully we can get that all in place so it becomes a lot easier, because we weren't prepared for this video virtual conferencing type of stuff, and it's been a challenge during COVID to get up to speed with that. So that is something that we are looking to upscale ourselves up to get that up and going. But we do offer training, and it'll become more obvious and frequent when this Delta variant and the restrictions kind of get a little bit eased up. Because they eased and it goes back, and it's been kind of ebbing and flowing. It's hard to get a roll with and keeping our staff protected with the amount of foot traffic that we get, because we constantly are challenged with contact tracing and positives. It's a constant battle at the AJC.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Safety first. So the other question too, I know we've discussed this before about intermediaries. So, we're looking for, expanding, sponsors. For instance, maybe a company may not be participating as a trainer, but they probably are more likely to take in workers as a sponsor, as an eligible sponsor. And I think one of the barriers was that the paperwork involved, right? If you're a small business, the administrative burden might be too much for them to handle, to take on this, apprentice or pre-apprentice. And so intermediaries, if you can talk more about what that is. So I know like Guam Hotel Restaurant Association, they, such, and perhaps other entities, maybe the Farmers Cooperative, they can act as an intermediary to avail these small businesses of the GRAP program. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
I think that's a great idea and something that I would encourage, but finding those intermediaries is always a challenge. Those who would come in and get trained up so that we can assist them. We have the staff and we have the abilities to train anybody and individual companies too. But we have a hard time finding people to step up and wanting to do it. So that's a great concept. It's been done with GHRA, and they came to us and we sat down and we worked with them. Is it done with it? GCA, yeah, Guam Contractors Association, we've done that with them. Those are the more solid organizations that are always around, and once they get the training, are always willing to impart it to their constituents. So we are doing it on a very limited basis because there's not too many intermediaries that are stepping up. But we're always for anybody that comes in and looking for either GRAP, apprenticeship, or like I said, being a training providers.
Okay, thank you. And then another question. So I guess going back to the question about jobs, do we have a handle of how much jobs are out there that people can look for?
No, we don't have. There's no way of surveying it or checking it. It's just too dynamic right now. Businesses are opening and closing. We haven't gotten to a level period where it just doesn't change and there's comfort for everybody to start opening and start getting some uniformity and everything so that we can try to do a survey on something like that. We're not quite there yet. So other than typically these are things that are used, a UI program is where you get a lot of that data, that live data. And we don't have that. So therefore it's difficult for us to do our surveys, which are done quarterly, is the closest thing that we can get to what the situation is at that time.
So in the last, I guess, quarter report, what was the job offerings?
Oh gosh, I don't remember off the top of my head. I remember that the amount of employed was about 8,000, and that kind of coincides with our numbers of PUA, give or take. And as far as, I don't remember the total jobs that are open. I'm sorry, Senator.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Okay,
Too many
thanks.
numbers.
Thank you. So Dr. Okada, if you can probably chime in on some of the, I guess, the labor market out there, what's available. I know your model is, working with the company that is looking for workers. So is there an idea of employment opportunities on your end?
So right now we're really just taking the lead from either reaching out to employers or employers reaching out to us. And so the message that we've actually been providing is that if businesses need some assistance in terms of providing a boot camp, or a couple of businesses that we put together a cluster so that we provide a cohort to support their industry, then we're willing to do that. So we're taking the leads from just about everywhere. And I'm appreciative of all the leads we get. I just got one from Senator Shelton earlier. So everybody's talking about, what workforce needs they have, and people are making the referrals here. So we're taking interest in all of those leads and trying to help develop those cohorts for them.
Okay, great. I
I
think
do want to add, Senator, that the number that I can give you is from our Hire Guam, and the number of positions for 2021 is 10,564,000 jobs. That a number of positions that have registered on Hire Guam. So that kind of gives you, doesn't tell you everybody, because if you didn't register your job there, then but that's the total number that I've registered for 2021.
okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so perhaps there's some opportunity for collaboration between GCC to maybe find out, what potential cohorts are available there in addition to other providers. Okay, I think, I think that's my question so far. So I'd like to open up the floor to my colleagues. Senator Shelton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Della Sola. Thank you, President Okada, for your presentations today and all the work that you're doing along with your teams. We're really appreciative of your commitment to developing the workforce, to getting people back to work, and to providing the assistance and the information that's needed. Director Della Sola, I know we were hearing in the news about the extended benefits that some states were availing of if they had continued rise in unemployment, a 13-week extension and a 20-week extension. And I was wondering if any of Guam's workers will be able to avail of this extended benefit. And if so, how many of Guam's workers, if we're eligible for this program?
I think you're talking about a UI program, and we don't have
Okay.
here. So that's where they can extend the benefits in UI. States have controls over those.
Okay, so not the PUA program at all. I understand.
Believe me, I've checked, everything. When you hear anything about if there's any extension, you would hear it nationally, because it's not just on a Guam or per state. It's a federal program, and whatever they do for PUA will be done nationally.
Mm-hmm. And Director, can you tell us if there's any discussion within the department or perhaps with the administration to do a local PUA program with any of the federal money that we have?
Well, I meet with the governor, and we've talked about so many different types of options depending on the environment of, our island. And so that's something that we have talked about. Right now, with the Small Business Pandemic Assistance Grant, that GITA, that is still being put out. That's about $20 million that's being injected to small businesses. We're getting giving that a chance to get out, get these businesses open. They can utilize that not only for opening, but for cost, for employment, for everything. So that was what, me sitting down with the governor and with the chamber, that we discussed, let's get that program rolled out first and see how that runs, and let's see how the island is doing, and we can adjust accordingly.
Okay, so the DOL program has been completely tabled, and our main focus now is the GITA program. There will be no program out of DOL at all.
Right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it was agreed, like I said, between the three of us and chamber, let's get this 20 million out. Let's get that pumped in. Let's see what kind of outcomes, how successful, what it is. We don't know how long this Delta or how recovery, there's so many variables that we can readdress the need or not at the time when it arises. So nothing's off the table. Everything is just being monitored.
Well, great. Please let us know how we can be of assistance, what kind of support from the legislature you need to make those programs happen. Thank you very much, Director. And again, thank you, President Okada.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Shelton. Senator Joanne Brown, if you have any questions for the panel.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Certainly, I want to compliment the panel on providing us. I know there was a lot of information provided, but I think for Department of Labor, for Director De La Sola, you provided us a very good overview of information of what's transacted with regards to the services and payments that have been provided by the Department of Labor, and certainly to our President, Mary Okada at Guam Community College. It's certainly very enlightening to hear the different type of training programs available. As you mentioned, certainly the pandemic has kind of highlighted the need for this type of training, cross-training for individuals that may have, as a result of the pandemic, lost their jobs and may need to be retrained with new skill sets for other career opportunities. And I certainly would support this ongoing program, because I think there's always a need for that. Everybody's not desires to be sitting at, in a college classroom and choosing that route. There's a lot of career opportunities as you're providing that are available for those, and it definitely provides the bridge for learning those skill sets and doing it in an environment that can be very supportive, because I'm sure there's a lot of interest there. But perhaps the opportunity to get that type of training is not always available. These employees probably in the past might have just simply, tried to get a job maybe at a lower apprentice level and then try to work their way up and get training, rather than the type of formal environment that you're able to provide at the Guam Community College. So I really commend you for the work that you're doing, because I think we're finding a great need for the services that Guam Community College is providing. I just wanted to get feedback first from Director De La Sola. Now, certainly you're seeing the decrease in the amount of, of our people that obviously are eligible, and perhaps a winding down of the federal funding with PUA. You mentioned that might extend out to March of next year. Do you know the profile of those individuals in our community that would still be able to perhaps receive funding up until March of next year, before perhaps the program totally has, winds down and out?
Basically, maybe you didn't quite understand it, and I'll rephrase. Those
Okay.
people who are the eligible work. September 4th was the last week.
Right.
We still have, out of those 10,000 people or so that applied, there's still hundreds that have issues, that are under appeal, that have problems with their claims that we have to circle around. Some of them are a lot easier. Some of them are very complicated to fix, and it might take time. It helps that now that no new claims are coming in, once we fix you, you're fixed, and you're going to be paid the next round, and then you're done. And that's what I mean, is that there's always going to be some trickle of people that have had problems, and they're under appeal, because if you're under appeal, your claim's on hold. And then if you win your appeal, then you might be owed money, you might be owed weeks, you might be readdressed, and it'll be corrected, fixed, and then you'll be paid the next time around. And that's what I mean by, no matter how long it takes, we will get to every single person that has an issue on their claim, and we will pay them once we resolve them. And the good thing is once we fix you, you're not going to come back. A lot of the people, you have to understand, on the weekly, we fix them, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, they're back again. We got to file it for them all over again. 2 or 3 weeks later, they're back again. And it's like a revolving door. But, that's where we're here. Now is not revolving. Once you're fixed now, the program ended in the 4th.
Right.
You're going to be fixed all the way up to the 4th. You're done. You're finished, and we move on to the next one. So that's what I mean by, we will get to every appeal, we will get to every overpayment and adjudication that's needed to make sure they're fixed and paid.
Okay, so you're essentially saying then that those resolution issues will be addressed perhaps up till March of next year.
Yes,
And if they win their claim, then perhaps they'll be receiving what additional funds are due to them. Otherwise, of course, as we understand, the program pretty much concluded last month.
Yes.
And then I wanted to ask, I know the for GCC, I know the training is focused right now on where we're at, but we had the interesting discussion this past week with regards to DOC and their desire, of course, for a new facility. And one of the questions I'd asked the director had to do with any potential rehabilitation programs that they would expand with their new facility, because we certainly want to provide the opportunity. It's one of the biggest challenges is individuals that are coming back out into our community really may not have the job training skills. And I don't know, Dr. Okada, if the Guam Community College has worked in the past or may look at also connecting with DOC in the future to also expand for those individuals that have the opportunity certainly of coming back into the community, but coming back with trained skill sets that they can actually have viable opportunities for career choices that can give them a better life than where they may have been. So I know that's kind of side story on the pandemic training that's being provided by your boot camps, but since that issue just recently came up, I just wanted to get your feedback and thoughts, and perhaps GCC may have done some training in the past or ongoing, if you can just enlighten us on that.
So currently what GCC provides is in terms of adult education and GED. So we have been doing some training in that regard, just getting them to get the high school diploma or the equivalency. But there are opportunities for us to partner with DOC to provide those that are going to be re-entering our community, to provide them with some training as well. So we can work with DOC. Something for
Seems to be an internet connection issue, or is it on my end? No,
I think it was on her. I do want to add that, Senator, that we have a MOU with the court and with DOC to work with those offenders who are in the program or coming out to get them trained or employed. We're also working on the Fidelity Grant program, which basically, in a nutshell, is an insurance policy to those employers that if you hire an ex-offender and if something goes wrong, you're backed by an insurance policy. So
that would provide comfort, but okay.
So,
but the Department of Labor, do you provide the training or do you provide the funding for avenues like GCC or other institutions to provide the training?
Funding for training. We don't do any. Only training we do is to assist employers with our programs to take advantage of that stuff, but we don't do any in-house training.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Sorry, Dr. Okada, I know you kind of got cut off with our internet process here.
Yeah, so as I was saying, if there are opportunities for us to work with the DOC in providing some training for those that are going to be re-entering our community, we certainly will look at those opportunities and see how we can help support depending on what their interests may be. Of course, it's going to be a little bit difficult trying to get a cohort in one particular area, but maybe we can work with our employer sponsors and see if we can include some of those in the cohort.
And just quickly, out of curiosity, on average, how long are these boot camp? What's the time frame? I mean, of course, depending on what type of skill set, that might take a little longer to spend it, depending on the specialty. But just on average, for people out there listening, if they're interested and want to participate and sign up for a program, on average, how much time is involved in perhaps getting through that process so they have these certain type of trained skills? Because I do want to commend you on your rates of success for those students that actually applied and completed the program. I think those are very good averages, except for the truck drivers. I guess we won't be signing up for truck driving anytime soon. I'm sure that's a big undertaking, moving that big vehicle around obstacle courses. I don't think I'd pass, but for your other categories there, I mean, 80+% is a very good rate. A success rate of completing the courses.
So the boot camps average anywhere from 6 weeks to 12 weeks, just depending on, it really is dependent upon the employer. If they want us to provide something very basic, we can do that. But we want to provide them with, what it is that they're looking for their initial hires. So, there's a difference between hiring folks that have some skill set. And because our intent is to enter these folks into apprenticeship, we want, for example, for like construction or ship repair, we provide a little bit of, HVAC, welding, construction, so that when they get into the workforce, they can take their introduction to those specific areas and identify what area would best suit them in terms of their apprenticeship. So it's a little bit of everything for those that are in construction or in ship repair, but it really provides a foundation for the employer to see where these students have a higher success rate in terms of the apprenticeship. So it really depends. If the employer wants something short to get them, into the workforce faster, certainly we can reduce the number of weeks, but it is anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Okada, and also certainly thank you to Mr. Della Sola for providing the information, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the indulgence and the time to ask these questions. Most appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Teitigui, do you have any questions for the panel?
Kind of multitasking, hearing, listening to all the presentations. Very impressive presentation. Of course, Dr. Okada, you always seem to amaze me. Right when you think you've done one project, you're standing by in the wings, ready for the next project to go. I apologize for the bad hair day. As I said, just came up from the outside, but and to Mr. Della Sola, it took a while, and at the very beginning to get it rolling. Trial and error was, and through that, I think that we provided any kind of assistance we can at the legislative part, and want you to know, still standing by to provide any other additional support you have, especially as we move into area where we're going to have a lot of people out of jobs still. I mean, we have the second wave blowing in right now, and without any assistance from the PUA, it's going to be very difficult. And I apologize again, I had the chairman provide me the PowerPoint presentation because I wasn't able to see the PowerPoint presentation. However, I was able to listen to what you were saying. I don't recall if you mentioned from the time that you were distributing, I guess, and then some in 2021, you talked about 1,000 individuals that you worked in. Distance to like
Sorry, Senator Tello, you're cutting in and out. Maybe if you can get closer to the phone.
Okay.
It's
turn off my screen. Okay. Turn off my screen. Is it better?
It's better. Yeah, you can proceed.
Anyways, yeah, you don't want to see me anyways. That being said, what are the numbers now? I mean, from the beginning of 2021, halfway in May of 2021, what are you seeing as far as numbers, people going back to work?
Okay, I think I got enough of your question. You were cutting out in and out, so I was trying to follow what you were saying. I estimate as around 8,000 unemployed to 10,000, give or take. So is that answering your question? I'm not sure I caught it all. Sorry.
2021, you.
Sorry, Senator Tello. Yeah, we can't hear you. So perhaps maybe we can forward the questions to Director Dave Della Sola, or if you can type it in. Yeah, the connection is not very good.
Chair, can you hear me now? I believe the question was answered with regards to how many people are currently unemployed at this time. And I believe the answer was 8 to 10. It's just wanting to see the scale of it moving down, or are we being stagnant as far as like people being able to get jobs out there?
The numbers have been going down, and it's reflective to the unemployment report, as you can see, and also the indications of the money going out with PUA. The claimants have been going down, our unemployment has gone down. Everything was moving towards the recovery Of course, with Delta getting a little bit of a blip, but still things are moving forward and are recovering as we learn to adjust with COVID. It's not
Apologize
100%
for
open yet. There's still a lot of people, a lot more unemployed than there are jobs, but there are hundreds of jobs out there that are available that I think naturally, as PUA ending and the money stops, people will start having to go to work. And,
right. And yeah, and I appreciate that, David. And I apologize to everyone on the panel for my bad internet service at this time. But so I'll just go ahead and to say thank you again so much for all your hard work. And I look forward to seeing what Department of Labor has next in store to assist those 8,000 to 10,000 people still not working out there that need some kind of assistance. And the programs that you're doing over at GCC, Mary, it's always amazing to see the assistance our community and the cross training that's happening right now that needs to happen. So thank you, Madam Chair. And I have additional questions, but I'll do as suggested and have them in writing and send it to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Tello, for your participation. So going back to maybe follow-up question regarding Senator Tello's question about the, so there's 8,000, according to June 2021 report, that there are roughly about 8,000 people that are unemployed, but there's also people not in the workforce. So are you seeing that decrease due to actually people getting jobs, or are they just not looking for jobs, or both? This question is for Director Dave Dillon.
so there's still a lot of people not in the workforce. And I don't think they're being aggressive about it because we're just starting to get out of the recovery. Some of them are still taking care of their kids or their grandparents or parents or various child care or caregiving. So it's just a little too early in the recovery to make any real observations on this, other than the fact that PUA is ending, the money is stopping very quickly, and people will have to start to get up and look for the work and look for jobs. So there will be a shift naturally.
Okay. And then the 10,000 figure you mentioned about there potentially 10,000, over 10,000 jobs available, according to the last.
I said 8 to 10,000. Yeah. Oh, but those 9,000 some positions. Yes, I'm sorry. Those are registered in our Higher Guam system.
Okay. Is that private sector jobs, or is it a mix of private and public
Private
sector?
sector.
Okay. So I want to show something. Maybe I can have my staff put it up. So we did a rundown of the budget that we just passed, and we listed all the vacancies by agencies, or at least the ones with the most vacancies. And as you can see here, there are opportunities within the government for potential, employment. So you have Department of Revenue and Taxation. There's about 12 positions that are funded. Department of Ag, 7 positions. The Mayor's Council, 17. And if you go down the list, you have Department of Education, there's 115. And just to show that it's not all teachers, although we do need teachers, there's a variety of positions that are there. And then if you go down a little further, you have Department of Public Health and Social Services, 42 vacancies. And the purpose is to show that there's a variety of positions, and potentially, hopefully this could be, there could be trainings if one is not, doesn't have the prerequisite skills. Potentially this could be, an opportunity for the government to help close the gap and provide employment for those that don't have the necessary skills just yet. But for those that are out there that have the skills, there are opportunities within the government too. Plus the 10,000.
I agree with you, Senator. We've lost several PUA staff to government agencies, be it public health or whatever, all around. So there are opportunities out there for in government and in private sector. You're right.
Okay, great. All right, there's maybe just a couple questions before we close. So in regards to the GRAP program, so what I understand is that the company who is sponsoring apprentices, they get all their training costs reimbursed. 50% is paid for, the salary of the apprentice is paid for by the government, and the other 50% they can apply for tax credits. Is that correct?
No. Basically, they can write off 50% of not only the participant, but the trainers when they're working with the journeyman or the skilled worker. When they work, can be written off as a tax credit. It has to be applied through us, and we vet it before we send it to Rev and Tax. But so basically, you're getting an employee and training them, and you're getting them a 50% cost savings.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we definitely would need a technical assistance for businesses. Yeah, so I think, really this is a call out to everybody out there in the community. For those that are looking for jobs, there's opportunities. You can look through the website. There's job fairs, and Department of Labor is going to be a key stakeholder in interfacing with employers, whether it's private sector or public sector jobs. You have a lot of the, GCC is one of the key players and stakeholders in making sure that employers have trained staff through their boot camps, which is more of a shorter program, but there's also apprenticeship programs too as well. And also they provide bachelor's degrees too. So there's a variety of opportunities out there. And, being that, our economy, we definitely need to diversify. And there is a need for these workers in the construction fields and medical fields. I think that's important too, as we look towards workforce development and looking to these, our agencies to assist. So I do want to
add, I'd just like to add on that point is that I just want to make it clear to everyone that, Department of Labor and AJC is only a part of the solution. It isn't the solution. We're not going to cure this recovery. We're not the creator of jobs or anything. All I'm asking for the public is to be part of your employment solution. So if you're going out and you're recruiting on your own, utilize us. If you're doing something, let us be a part of your solution. We're not going to be your solution for all your recovery and unemployment or every person that comes in, every employee. We're just not designed to be the cure-all for this whole recovery and finding everybody jobs. We're just going to be a piece of that pie, and I hope an important piece. And it's only as good as the employers that come in and the employees that come to us. And of course, the excellent training providers that we have on board. So we're all pieces of that puzzle. And if you include us with your employment needs and solutions, I think we can add to that.
Yes, thank you. And Dr. Cotta, if you have any words to the public at this time? Closing remarks.
Of course, yes, thank you for the opportunity again. For those looking to upskill, reskill, retool, reshape, look for opportunities for advancing their profession, look to the Guam Community College to help address your educational needs. We will be opening up the semester for the spring if those want to go on a regular track. Otherwise, stay tuned for the posting that we have for the various boot camps that are coming up. We will continue to provide these boot camps, for the long term, as long as there are jobs available waiting for or looking for individuals to hire. So we look forward to partnering. If you are a company and need our assistance in helping develop a boot camp with you, then please reach out to us, and we'll continue to provide the support to our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cotta. And I just also want to highlight another program that GCC is hosting. It's the Out of School Youth Program, training for ages 16 to 24. And I noticed that some of the PUA a big portion of the PUA claimants were in that age group. So, you know, if you are a youth and you're looking for a job, there are opportunities for training, and please get in touch with GCC, Guam Department of Labor. You know, there's assistance out there. And I just also want to show other, you know, I just want to also reinforce there's other trainers, eligible trainers that Department of Labor recognizes. So if I can have my staff just show that slide, it's under AJC training providers. So these are other providers that are recognized by Department of Labor. And, you know, if you want to look at their programs too, I do recommend. It's going to take a whole community. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Evan. It's going to take a whole community to help bring back our workers to be employed. So yeah, I look forward to maybe having a roundtable discussion if we can focus more on individual industries. But I think this informational hearing definitely highlights the two vital functions that Department of Labor has, which is the implementation of Guam's first unemployment assistance program under the auspices of the federal government, and is a key stakeholder in bringing our 8,000 plus workers back to work by interfacing between employers and prospective employees, as well as providing workforce development through pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship programs in collaboration with Guam Community College and all those eligible providers. So thank you for your participation and your flexibility too. I know we originally scheduled this for Monday, so thank you so much for your work in putting together such you know, very good information. And I want to thank my colleagues for joining me here today. And you know, thank you to the public for listening. If there are no further testimonies or questions, Committee on Environment, Revenue, Taxation, Labor, Procurement, Statistics, Research, and Planning adjourns this informational hearing. The time is now 1:32 p.m. So Masi. Have a great day.